Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. They say third time is the charm. Good morning. Welcome to our State of the City 2019. We're thrilled to have such a great turnout. I'm Paul Fry, President of the Chamber. And again, we're glad you're here this morning to hear from our mayor and council members about the state of the city. We have a few announcements. We're going to see a video, and then we'll hear from the mayor and our council members this morning. There are some cards and pencils on your table. After the mayor says good morning and the council members have a few remarks, we will take questions from the audience if you'd like to ask either the mayor or any of the council members. So please be prepared to do so, and we'll collect those as you have them. We'd like to welcome commissioners here this morning. President of the County Commissioners, Jeff Klein's here this morning. Good morning, Commissioner Klein. Let's give him a round of applause. We also have Court Mendelschmidt, Wayne Kiefer, and Commissioner Randy Wagner. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause. We will say good morning again to our mayor and council members, but let's welcome, first of all, Mayor Bob Brucci. We have council members Kristen Alshire, Austin Heffernan, Emily Keller, Shelley McIntyre, Lou Metner. Let's give them a good morning welcome. And we have at least one of our Washington County Business Award winners from last Wednesday evening at this venue from Middletown Valley Bank, large business. We have BJ Getz, Andy Schubert, Shane Heitzer, Jim Fahey. Welcome, congratulations. Just a number of upcoming events I'd like to draw your attention to. Later this morning at 11:30, right back in this facility, but next door, we have our learning lunch hour, Google for Business. That'll be, again, 11:30 this morning. There is no charge. If you buy lunch, they'll charge you for lunch. I think it's $12, $15, something reasonable, and the food is good. We have our Eggs and Issues on the 13th, so a week from tomorrow at Applause Caterers. Commerce Secretary Kelly Schultz will be in town to say good morning to us, so that'll be exciting, and so please register for that. Maximize your membership if you want to learn a little bit more about the chamber, if you're a new member, or if you've been a member for a few years, you want to get refreshed on what's available to you as a member. That's the 21st at our office. Our Business and Social Hour, BASH. The next one is at the Maryland Theater. Yes, they brought their own PR crowd with them. It's exciting. It's going to be the fourth Thursday. We're going to get to see some what's going on inside, and we'll get a little behind the scenes activity on what's happening with the construction going on downtown. We'll be excited for October 11th. Is that the right date?
Yes.
October 11th. So I know that the ladies are working hard to make sure that happens. And the jackpot is $750. And more importantly, we'll give away at least $100. So if you're there that evening, we're going to keep drawing until we have a winner that night. And we did give away $100 at the library last week, so that was fun. Since we have State of the County, State of the City, we have to have State of the Chamber. So that will be March 28th as well, 7:30 in the morning back here, so look for information about that. And lastly, if you don't already have it on your calendar, May 18th, we have our big centennial celebration at Ryder Jet Center, 6 to 11 p.m. More information coming, but put that on your calendar, and we're excited about that, so that'll be fun. It's now my pleasure to introduce our sponsor for this morning, Christian Wright with Wright Garner. Please help me welcome Christian.
I'll make this quick because I know everyone's just waiting to hear what our council members have to say. But once again, it's our pleasure to sponsor the State of the City. As in years past, I'm sure you'll find this morning to be very exciting and informative. So thanks again for coming out.
Thank you, Christian. I think it makes insurance that easy too. So thank you, Christian, for your continued support. We really appreciate it. Again, there are cards on your table. If you have questions you'd like to ask the mayor or the council members, please jot them down and we'll have them collected and we'll facilitate that later this morning. It's now my pleasure to introduce the video from the city. We're going to watch a short video, then we'll hear from the mayor and the council members. So if you roll the video.
I'm Mayor Bob Brucci, and welcome to the State of the City. In our video, you're going to hear from our employees. and about their dedication to move our city forward to be a safe and business-friendly city. You're going to hear about some of the challenges that we face, and you're going to hear about some of the progress that we've made in the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Although the police and fire department are easily identified as key players in making Hagerstown a safe city, I think it's important to note that it's a collaborative effort with all the other departments, especially when we're talking about all the events that the nonprofits and the city puts on from year to year. We work very closely on a daily basis with the other departments and department heads such as Public Works, Economic Development, Code, and everywhere from that to the Water Department, who provides safe drinking water for the residents of the city.
Our water meets all the requirements of the Safe Water Drinking Act, and it's really good water. A lot of customers have actually said they prefer this water in Hagerstown opposed to any bottled water company. I like just meeting all the standards and knowing that you're, sending out good water for people to drink and providing a service for other people.
As a maintenance worker with Public Works, we go through the streets. They pick out certain streets through each year for an overlay, and we'll go through and repair and rebuild the storm drains as needed. And then once that's caught up, then usually in the fall time, we'll go through and do sidewalks, which tripping hazards, sinking, such as that, just repair the sidewalks for the public. And then wintertime, as it is now with the snow coming, we'll do plowing, which changes from storm to storm. If it's a minimal amount, if it's just ice or whatnot, we'll wait till it gets wet and go out and salt. We can't pre-treat within the city. We'll salt, and then with a bigger storm coming through, we'll go out and plow first and then salt. Because if we salt before we plow, then we're just plowing salt off, is why a lot of the storms people will see the streets have snow on them, but we're waiting to get a little bit of accumulation for the salt to basically grab onto and do its job.
We moved in about 2.5 years ago, and this is an older house, and we needed some work with the water, lights, and the response was phenomenal. We got fast responses, we got all the favorable decision, and the work that needed to be done was great. Most importantly, we also have an alley that has a blind spot, so we contacted the Department of Public Works to see if we can install our own traffic mirror, which is located right there. Within a day, they came in, they approved it, and we needed an extension in order to install the mirror, and it was all done. As I can say, all the employees are competent, very responsive, and they really make you feel like they want to work with you towards your goal.
We maintain and operate the street lighting system for the City of Hagerstown. In the City of Hagerstown consists of high-intensity discharge lighting and some LED lighting, and they both lend themselves to the safety and security of the patrons doing business with the businesses that are located downtown, along with maintaining all of our sub-transmission and distribution electric lines that are in our territory. We do have an active street lighting program along with the overhead lights on 30-foot poles like you see behind us, also the decorative 10-foot lighting like you can see in the square. That both provides pedestrian lighting and vehicular lighting when you're driving down the street. And it lends itself to the safety and feeling of the people in downtown doing business here. And we do maintain those lights. We paint them, we remove them, put new ones up actively throughout the year.
The one thing that our office is doing is trying to do more outreach to our community to try to make them more knowledgeable of why does the Planning and Code Administration Department exist. And we're here to make sure that they're safe and that different projects are going on to just make it a better community and be more business friendly. One of those ways to educate people is we're doing some social media outreaches by doing Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages that our department will be distributing information on a weekly basis, letting people know what's going on with our office, and are available to answer questions through that platform to help people understand our department better.
I feel that here, under our current leadership, we've taken community policing to another level, and we've done that through acquiring grant money to hire 3 resource officers. They're actually dedicated to the communities. We've identified these communities through surveys that we conducted last summer, and the communities that we found, they would share some of the challenges they're experiencing in their community with us, and that's how we gauged where we were going to place these officers. So they're solely dedicated to the communities, and they also are using other entities in the communities, like for the Bester, the Locust Point community, the Bester Community of Hope, for the Jonathan Street area, the Medal of Honor group. So we've also partnered with some other entities to help us achieve our overall goal, which the overall goal for us is it's going to have a direct impact on economic development, and we want to make these communities that have these challenges safer so that people want to come here, and it's a good place to work, live, and play.
Neighborhoods First has a very strong partnership with the Hagerstown Police Department, on top of other departments, but from a safety standpoint, residents who engage with the city through Neighborhoods First, they meet throughout the year. Our police department staff and sometimes other staff from other departments will meet with citizens through the Neighborhoods First program. They'll talk about concerns, possible enhancements, beautification, lighting, anything that the neighborhood would feel is maybe a need or a concern. It's a pipeline to, once again, engagement with our local government staff to create that safe, attractive neighborhood.
As you've seen and heard, Hagerstown's commitment to being a safe city is shared across many departments. A great example is our engineering division. While you can see part of their major project on the business-friendly side behind me, working with residents to address their safety needs is a priority also, which resulted in the installation of a crosswalk on Salem Avenue.
When I moved here, the first couple years there were several cars that were totaled. They were just parked along the street, and just cars coming down the street not paying attention would just run into the cars, and the worst one was when 3 cars were totaled. One was pushed all the way up on the curb and hit the side of the house. It was a mess, so I contacted Rodney Tissue and a couple other people. When I contacted them about it, they responded to me within 24 hours. Reading over the information they sent me, the bump out looked like a good option, and since there was a traffic signal right there, it was a good safety feature also. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience that they actually care about what we as the occupants and taxpayers want and need, and what we can do to make the city nicer.
We were the first police department in the state of Maryland to utilize the app. We're at a time that everybody pretty much knows how to use these apps. It's a free app. It was very cost effective to the city. I think it was somewhere right around $1,000 for the city to purchase this app. And it's been very advantageous to our police department in 2 separate ways. The first way is it allows people that want to remain anonymous, or they don't have to remain anonymous, but if they see something, they have the app, they just send something. And the second reason why it's beneficial to us is because it kind of works in the reverse order also. So if you have the app and you're in the circle where we're sending information to, we might send information, it might be about a water main break, or there's a detour somewhere, or something weather related, anywhere from those kind of things, all the way to something a little more serious, like an example, a few months ago, we were looking for a missing juvenile, and somebody had recognized the juvenile from the app, and we were able to bring the juvenile home safely.
One of the biggest challenges with fire and emergency services recently, as early as last year, in 2018, was the growing opioid crisis in Washington County. We've seen a dramatic increase in our response to overdose responses as emergency medical first responders. So our goal is to help try to educate the public, prevent that. We've been very active with the Washington Goes Purple program to help educate the public as part of our job, so that we don't actually have to go out and do our job.
In 2018, there was a lot of work being done on the addiction issue that Hagerstown and Washington County, really the entire nation, faces as we are looking at the deadliest health crisis in U.S. history, we know we have a lot of work to do. So we were lucky enough recently with the help of the health department and a senior policy group to get a grant for a 24-hour crisis center that will be at the Behavioral Health Center on Burhans Boulevard. Emergency service providers will be able to take someone in crisis, whether that be an overdose or a mental health crisis, and they'll be able to go there and receive services and find out the best course of action for them. That's a huge win for Hagerstown and Washington County. And of course, we also launched Washington Goes Purple, which is an education campaign geared toward educating youth about the dangers of prescription painkillers. Treatment is absolutely necessary to fight this epidemic, but we have to stop people from becoming addicted and even attempting it. So that's what Washington Goes Purple is doing right now, spreading that messaging through our county, through our town. We think if we can stop addiction before it starts, 10 years from now, hopefully we won't be having the same conversation.
So business friendly from an economic development perspective means working together across all levels, from the top all the way down through every single department within the city. When working with big developers and site selectors, having everyone there to support this new business that's potentially looking to come here, keeping the county involved. They're a great partner with us, and we've been working very well together, and that's what's going to make this successful.
Low-cost, reliable, and safe electric supports the operations of the businesses here, and by being able to do that at a low rate helps attract new businesses to downtown and the city as a whole. Our rates are pretty much lower than the investor-owned utilities around us. We receive calls from companies looking to locate here based on the low utility rates, electric being one of them, along with water and wastewater.
We're doing an adaptive reuse of the space here and trying to bring a large retailer in, and we need to segment some of the utilities. So a phone call to the utility department, specifically the water department, meeting here on site, and an email and a permit paid over the phone, and we were done. I mean, it was a quick, smooth. Contractor came out, put in the new water line for us, and we were done. And we're getting ready to bring in, a large Fortune 100 retailer into the space now.
In order to try to make ourselves as business friendly as possible over the last couple of years, we've been putting a lot of energy into focusing on how we operate to see how we can remove some of the red tape that can drive some of our customers crazy. And so we've made a number of changes, and if you were to go to our website, you can see what's been done and what's coming. One of the coming things is that we're looking to allow for online permitting, which is not something that we have the capability to do at present. And so another thing is, how do we deliver the message? That's another very important part of being business friendly. And so this year we're going to be focusing pretty aggressively on customer service training for our staff, on all about how we deliver the message and interact with our customers so that they understand that we want to maintain good relationships with them. We appreciate the investment that they're making in the city, and we want to help them bring their plans to fruition as quickly and as smoothly as possible.
The urban improvement project is moving along very well. One of the great accomplishments for 2018 is getting 4 census tracts approved for our downtown, for the Opportunity Zone. That's great for the revitalization with our downtown to help attract investors. With my position, business attraction, retention, and expansion, it encompasses a lot. I think we're at a point in time where the momentum is growing, and it's a great time now to have your business in Hagerstown in Washington County.
So Main Street put together the Open for Business campaign, which probably a lot of people have seen. We just wanted people, visitors, residents to know that downtown was open, even though there was going to be some construction that might impact travel of traffic downtown. We also have put together various events for the downtown. We do the Chris Kindle Market in December. We have a Sweets on the Street event in March that we do with the Run Fest that happens that same weekend. And then we also do a chalk art festival. And soon we're going to be starting a pop-up trivia night every week in downtown Hagerstown, a different restaurant to go to do some pop-up trivia.
What we're developing for 2019 for our major city event programming is called Imagine Hagerstown. It's going to take place over 4 weekends in June. So June 7th, 8th, 14, 15, 21, 22, and 28, 29. So the idea of putting everything in June and also marketing the complementary programming that other organizations are doing that month is to have it be that there's always something going on in June. And hopefully that becomes a catalyst for something going on all the time in July and all the time in August and all the time all year round. That's sort of the economic development thrust behind the new programming. I think from an artistic standpoint and from the community standpoint, I think what this event does is showcases other art forms, other genres of music, because we're a really diverse community.
We're looking for our niche in the community as far as what we'll be able to offer our citizens to keep them healthy, active, and happy in their everyday lives. Our parks provide happy spaces, green spaces, opportunities to meet new people and just enjoy the great outdoors. We're so used to being inside now behind our computers, on our phones, and sometimes we just want to stop for a minute and look up. And we have these 22 beautiful parks in the city of Hagerstown, and it's just an opportunity to get outside. So we're looking for instructors and programming that would attract the citizens of our community, benefit their health, get them moving every day. So we're looking at things like yoga, Zumba, new programs like our anti-gravity fitness in our fit room. We're just always trying to evolve and offer new things that attract people to our parks and just make a better quality of life for everyone.
Preventing the 911 call is beneficial to the residents, the people that work and invest here, because it prevents the loss before it ever happens. It also saves money in the costs that we have that we incur when we actually respond to an emergency. We responded to, in 2018, 3,734 incidents. We had a property loss in structure fires or in fires, fire property loss of about $1 million. But the total value of that property was $19 million. So we actually, what we saved was 90% of the property that was involved. So that goes to show a lot of what we do in our response and how we're here as an insurance policy to save the value of the city.
Since that time, last 12 years, we've done several $1 million of sanitary sewer rehabilitation, trying to utilize trenchless technology as much as we can to minimize the impact to customers so we don't have roads torn up and longer periods of time of being down and road closures and blocking driveways, and that also helps to keep the cost down on repairs. It's typically half to a third of what a traditional dig and replace job would cost.
The continued success and progress of the city depends on the employees who take pride in their work every day. Whether it's behind the scenes departments like our finance, human resources, and IT divisions, or those in the public eye such as billing and collections and communications. They all play critical roles to make Hagerstown the safe and business-friendly city I envision. I'm confident that with all of us working in concert, that's a goal we'll achieve.
Thank you for that great video. It's now my pleasure to welcome the mayor of our city, Bob Brucci.
Well, if I didn't get the opportunity to welcome you individually and in person this morning, welcome. How about that video, huh? Let's give Wes Becker and Eric Hastings a big round of applause. As you can see from the video, we're focused this year on being business friendly and being safe. Our departments work hard every single day, and they focus on bringing the services that not only our residents need, but our visitors and our business people need. Now, every community is romancing companies that are looking to relocate, expand, create new points of delivery, and take advantage of this robust economy that we have. You know, when I speak to any school, I get asked basically the same question. Well, it's elementary, junior, or high school, except for those, you know, usual elementary school questions that I get that are like, you know, do you live in a mansion? You know, do you drive in a limo? Do you have bodyguards? You know, apparently they've all seen City Hall with Al Pacino. But they want to know what's the biggest challenge facing Hagerstown and what are you doing to address it? The biggest challenge is complex, of course. It's not really only one issue. First, it's helping to create an economic development so that we can have more opportunities for our citizens. Second, it's creating a safe environment for all who reside, work, and visit our community. And last but not least, it's assisting in finding a solution to fight the biggest epidemic this country has ever faced: opioid addiction and drug use. And I guarantee you these three issues keep many of us up at night. As a city focused on being business friendly, we have created the Invest Hagerstown grant program. This program is focused not only on the core of the city of Hagerstown, but it's citywide. And the great thing about this program is that it encompasses new business, home ownership, rental rehabilitation, and it's working because the Invest Hagerstown funds are down to basically nothing this year now, because people have utilized these funds to do exactly what I just mentioned. You know, one thing I tell these classes that it's not government's job to create jobs, right? Because if government creates jobs, it creates government jobs, of course, which cost our taxpayers more money. Government's job is to create the infrastructure and to facilitate new growth, and that's what we do. But you know, one of the things that I also tell them, because they always ask me things like, you know, what's the hardest part of your job? You know? Well, let me tell you the hardest part of my job. Eric and Wes have heard this firsthand. The hardest part of my job is being patient. I'm no good at that, just so you know, okay? Now, my wife has tried for 39 years to give me more patience, and she's failed miserably. When you see her, remind her of that. But, you know, it's the fact that here we are, 25 years later, talking about the same things we were talking about 25 years ago. You know, we're talking about a new parking depot in West 18th Street. 10 years ago, we started talking about a bridge across the Antietam, a professional court. Today, we're talking about it still. There's no urgency. And there has to be urgency, people. There just has to be. Because if we're not urgent, we're going to miss it again. And right now, we are finally seeing in our community new growth, new business. We have to be urgent about what we're doing. How many people out here have the see something, say something app on their phone? Let me see a show of hands. Well, that's disgraceful. I want you to know. Listen, this app is fantastic. As I pointed out in the video, you can be anonymous. How great is that? You know, I don't want anybody to be labeled a snitch. No one likes that word, right? So we don't want to do that to people. But if it's not everybody's responsibility to help keep Hagerstown safe, then we fail. I guarantee you, and I'll give you an example. I guarantee you, pardon me, fighting the head cold. I guarantee you that last weekend we had these youngsters out on these, motorcycles driving around the city of Hagerstown. You probably saw a couple of them, right? Someone knows where these people live. You can't drive those things and not know where they're at. And, my police officers aren't going to chase them. I can tell you right now, because they don't want to see anybody get killed. That's what happens when police chase people on these kind of bikes. Somebody gets killed. Well, my girls aren't going to do that. There's no way. But someone knows. And it's not about telling on them. It's about keeping them safe. It's about, letting people know so that these folks who are out there doing these crazy things aren't going to die. Isn't that important? I think it is. I think it's important for the people who are riding the bikes. I know my staff gets extremely aggravated with me at times. I don't blame them. I don't mean to be a pain in the tuchus, but I am. And some of them are here, and you can ask them, like Captain Langston and Captain Alexander and the chief, and, both chiefs actually. And now Mike Spiker, who has taken on the interim city administrator's position, and he's right beside me now in my office. That makes it worse for him. It's urgency. And when I go up on the third floor, and I talk to Kathy or Steve, I talk about, these are the things that we have to accomplish. These are the things we have to get done. We got to be urgent. I wish the state of the video, or the state of the city video, would have had that word in it. Besides being a safe and business-friendly city, need to be an urgency. We've had some changes at City Hall. As you know, we have a new interim city administrator. I will tell you that we have nearly 20 applications for that position that we'll be looking at in the next couple of weeks. Also, we're going to lose our HR director, Wendy Nussbaum, but Kevin will sit in and he'll do a great job until we can find somebody. Good news that you probably want to hear, we have a balanced budget without a tax increase. Huh? Come on. The great things that are happening in core are exciting, aren't they? I mean, when you go downtown, don't get me wrong, I get aggravated like everybody else does when the big trucks are unloading and you're going down, you're thinking you're on time to get someplace, and all of a sudden you got to turn left. It's exciting. It's exciting to see. The expansion of the Maryland Theater and the expansion of BISFA and the new programs at the University of Maryland that are coming online, and our county counterparts are fantastic. The county commissioners have been yes all the way along this road, and we appreciate that in the state of Maryland also. Let me ask you a question. How many people here want to go through downtown on a Sunday afternoon at like around 3 o'clock and see the streets bustling with people? Well, I want to. I'm telling you right now. Listen, it can happen. I know it can. And we're on the right track right now with this program, with the UIP program. That's part of the solution. It's not the whole answer, but it's part of it. But it's out there. The whole answer is out there. And I know we're going to find it, and I know we're going to use it, and we're going to be urgent about it. And we're going to put those feet on the street on this Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And everybody's going to be like, wow, look what we can accomplish as a community together. That's what it's about. We can't do it alone. I'm going to tell you right now, mayor and council can't. The county commissioners can't do it alone. Our state delegation can't do it alone. Everybody needs to help. And we know that everybody wants to help. And that's a great part. Everybody does. So, all right, I've spoken enough. and I want to put you to sleep. So I'm going to call my council up to the stage. Please join me, and they're going to make some opening statements, and then we are going to take your questions. Hopefully, we can answer them for you. Thank you. We're just going down the line real quick. Kristen, you can start out a little bit of opening statement for everybody.
Thank you for having us here this morning. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Good morning. I guess as the junior and probably oldest, no, not quite old, one of the oldest members of the council, thank you for coming today. I'm really pleased to see such a great turnout. We have all tried very hard over the last year to change some things in the city, and I think they are taking root, and we're seeing some positive progress, and we look forward to more in the future. So thank you for all your support.
Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate you being here this morning. Is this our time to talk about whatever we want to talk about, or are we just doing introductions?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do that. Yeah, sure.
So I brought a list this morning, actually. I looked at the state of the city last year and a lot of the concerns that we heard here and reflected back since last year of what we have accomplished. And I just want to go over that because I think it's important to talk about the progress that we've made in 2018 into 2019. Last year here, we heard a lot about the crime rate. You know, there was a lot of murders in 2017. There was a lot of panic going on that downtown was not safe and that our city wasn't safe. And I'm happy to report, as you guys know, we did have a change of leadership at HPD, and Chief Kiefer is now Chief of Police, and he is followed by Captain Alexander and Captain Langston, who are here today. You know, 2018, I think we can all agree, we had a pretty drastic reduction in violent crime. And I think it really reassured people that downtown Hagerstown and Hagerstown itself is safe, and that our police are doing their job, and they're re-energized. We're no longer losing officers, and we implemented a cadet program that's going to get kids right out of high school, have them intern at HPD, and then eventually become police officers. We're really excited about that program. We think it's going to make a huge impact on our community. And of course, they've really expanded their social media efforts into recruiting and filling those 19 officer slots that we have. So I'm happy to report, I think last year we were all concerned about crime, and I think in 2018 we saw that we took it very, very serious and that there's progress being made there. Last year also, of course, we heard a lot about the opioid epidemic. A lot of that was addressed in the video, but just to reiterate, the health department just got a multi-million-dollar grant for a 24-hour crisis center at the Behavioral Health Center. This is going to be a huge, huge impact for Washington County. Now, if someone is in crisis, whether they overdose or in a mental health crisis, our first responders can take them there. They can stay there for up to 23 and a half hours, and they will have services on site who will be able to wrap themselves around these people and figure out what the best course of action for them is, whether they need treatment, they need inpatient, they need outpatient, and be able to provide those services for them. It's a huge win, and I think we're going to see, you know, over the next several years how great that ends up being for Washington County. Just to outline some of the economic development accomplishments we've made, our team last year had 10 ribbon cuttings in city limits and 4 business anniversaries, and already this year in 2019 have had 5 ribbon cuttings. I think that's a huge win, and the mayor talked about Invest Hagerstown, which we're very proud of. I think we're going to see a lot of growth from our businesses. Our permits, codes, and inspection department, you know, we've been really tough on them about let's make Hagerstown business friendly, and I can say that Kathy and her team are delivering. They are all over, you know, building up social media to try to put out positive messages, campaigns. They're listening to what our investors are saying, and they're really turning that environment around to be business friendly. Out of all the things I think this administration is trying to accomplish, that was probably one of the most important ones. We want people to come here. We want you to invest here, and we want it to be easy. We want people to say, go to Hagerstown, it's thriving, it's growing. And I think we're finally getting to a point where that reputation of not being business friendly is changing, and we're very, very proud of that. And we thank Kathy and her team for the hard work that they've done, especially over this last year at turning that tide. We have the Youth Advisory Council and some homeless issues that I know Council Member McIntyre is going to talk about. The last thing I just want to address is our relationship with the county, which was also a hot topic last year, people asking how that was. Shelley and I did our first 2x2 meeting with Court Meinelschmidt and Randy Wagner last Thursday. It's the first 2x2 council meeting we know of since around 2005-ish. So we think that's a good start in communicating and having open communication with the county. And we're in a good place. We're in a good place right now. There was a lot of negativity surrounding Hagerstown at times, and I'm here to tell you I get to see the hard work that our staff does every day and that everyone in this room does to make Hagerstown a better place. I'm energized. I think the change in leadership in the city has really turned everyone positive, and we're really seeing a lot of progress. I'm so happy to be here. I've lived in Hagerstown my whole life. I'm proud of Hagerstown. I'm absolutely proud of the progress that we're making, and I really, truly think we're on the right track. I hope that you guys agree, and I hope that you guys continue to help us move forward and push the city forward. Thank you.
I also have the list. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Hager Hall and to the Chamber, and Wes and Eric. That was great. That was really good. Thank you. Good job. Emily had, hit the nail on the head. When working with our staff, when you come into this position, you think, oh, the city has no idea what they're doing. They must need, some guidance on how to run a government. This staff, as you can see on the video, they are amazing. If I need something, if a citizen needs something, they're quick to respond. And it may not be the answer that you want, but they're very proactive, I think. And I think that that's the approach going forward. I, too, read the article from the Herald Mail last year, and one of the things that was mentioned was the farmers market. I heard you loud and clear. I have been to the farmers market every single week since that meeting, except for a few vacations, which I make sure that I let Jeff and Debbie's Grill know that I won't be there, or else they would be very fussy. You can't beat a $4 blueberry pancake, and it's delicious. The farmers market is also, they've increased their social media presence. I was there at 10:15 last week, and it was packed. Thanks to North Hagerstown High School's cooperation, and they took over the farmers market one weekend. Emily went there at 11:15, and it was still busy. And that was winter. There was snow on the ground, and it was freezing. No one wanted to come out, but they did. So thank you. Thanks for participating and supporting the farmers market. The Youth Advisory Council, that was another thing that was brought up in the Herald Mail last year. What are you doing about the youth? What are you doing about the youth? I heard you. So we've started a Youth Advisory Council. We're in the process of applications, and we hope to get a nice, diverse group of youth that, we can listen to them and they can help guide us for our future. We make decisions about the youth without their voices. So city staff, took our idea and the council voted on it and approved it. And I think that you'll see big changes, and I think that you'll see leadership within our amazing youth in this city. So I'm very proud of that. We've also are working on addressing the homeless issue. I did a ride-along with a police officer around this time. Actually, it was St. Patrick's Day last year. Had a bulletproof vest on and everything. Would not want that job at all. Kudos to all of you. But the relationship that the police have with our homeless, it's indescribable. It's they know them by name, they help them, they reach out to them, they give them opportunities to change their lives. And we now have been working with key stakeholders in our community to address this issue. There is a program called Bridge to Change that we're working on to actually, for the city to pay the homeless to work and, to clean up our city so they can feel a part of our community and they can become productive members of our society. I'm proud of this council. I'm extremely, this administration to me is, we're having a good time. I think that we make the best decisions that we can, and I'm really proud of this group and proud to be a part of it. So thank you for all of your support.
Thank you all for coming. I continue to be amazed at how many crazy people there are that will get up at 7 a.m. in the morning to come and hear us. But I appreciate everyone being here. This, I think, is my 25th State of the City address, and I have to say that it's the first time that we've ever oriented towards our staff. And I think it's high time we did it, and I commend whoever came up with that idea. It certainly wasn't me. It made me realize what everybody takes for granted. You know, when you think about what complaints you may have about city government or the city, I'll bet you it doesn't have anything to do with flushing your toilets or turning on your water tap or flipping your light switch or driving down the road. They're taken for granted, and they're done very well in the city, and they're not done by the people up here. They're not done by us when the water main breaks when it's 5 degrees out at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'll give you a quick little story. It was one I know all of us enjoy getting the email. You know, we had these horribly high winds about a week ago where we had, I think, a 65-mile-an-hour gust in the city, which, by the way, by far and away has the cheapest electric, water, and sewer rates anywhere in the area. But not only does it have the cheapest, but we got a very irate phone call from a doctor in Fountainhead, upset as hell. Don't we understand that there are elderly and sick people out there, and they've been out without power for close to 40 hours, and what are we doing about it? And you know, actually our staff did something about it. They contacted PE, and they made it clear to PE that they had customers in Fountainhead that were going crazy about power and tried to make those arrangements for the folks out in Fountainhead. The very folks that would die if they thought we were talking about annexation out there, but the very folks who would love to have the electric service and the water service and prices that we have in the city of Hagerstown. So I just want to again commend staff because they're what makes this thing go around. We sit up here and try to talk policy, but that's all we do. They're the people who make the city run, and I want to thank them all. And again, thank Wes and Eric for their fine job of putting together what you saw here today, notwithstanding that we didn't have a split on what they do. But thank you.
Any other council members? Any other comments before we take questions? We good? All right. Well, just, Mr. Mayor, you did guilt me, and rightly so, to put in the see something, say something app on my phone. It took 2 minutes. I wasn't doing it up here. I was at my seat. So if you're doing the smartphone prayer, I know what you're doing. So it's really easy to do, and we should all have this. So thank you for the good reminder. First question we have is, and it's not directed towards anyone, what is your opinion on Delegate Quarterman's House Bill 928 regarding inmate release locations?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's overdue. I'll tell you that along with some business people who are actually in this room, we went to Baltimore back in 2006 and met with the Attorney General, Doug Gansler, and had a policy change. It wasn't a Division of Correction regulation change. It was just a policy change, and it actually wasn't implemented by a vote of any kind. But they decided that they would transport these inmates who are sentenced outside of Grant County back to the jurisdiction where they were sentenced. And that stayed in place until about 2014. In 2014, the Attorney General for the Department of Public Safety decided that it was unconstitutional to do that. But you can't dictate where free men live. When I met with him, I explained to him that my understanding is when you're on parole and probation, you are still not a free man because you have still not finished your debt to society. Now, those individuals who finish a day-to-day in the prison system, sure, they're free men when they come out. But when you're on parole and probation, you're not. But he didn't want to hear that. And so we figured it out, given Mr. Quarterman's data, that we have over 1,200 felons released into Washington County in the last 4 or 5 years, who now reside in Washington County, who did not reside in Washington County when they were sentenced. So it's a problem. It's a problem that needs addressed, and I'm glad he's addressing it, and hopefully we get some movement on it. We're going down, I know I'm going down this month to testify, and you know, we had my chief or Captain Langston could give you all the info that you want on data of individuals released here in Washington County in the city of Hagerstown who've committed serious crimes who are not from this community. So, yeah, so I'm definitely in favor.
Okay. Any other comments from the council members?
I think it's important to understand that you can't view that specific topic in a vacuum. As the mayor points out, we're roughly receiving about 400 new individuals through that release process into the city of Hagerstown, largely the city of Hagerstown, and its impact to those resources in the community every year. And we only have 40,000 people in the city, so it's, 1% of the population. We only grow at like 0.3, 0.2, 0.3% a year. So it's literally triple the number of natural growth that we have occurring in the city every year. And then when you couple that with the fact that this doesn't include individuals that are remanded to residential facilities throughout the city, there's probably roughly 50 at this point, through various drug courts from other counties. You know, that's a compounding effect. And so, you know, if the state's directive is going to be that we're going to receive those individuals, that sort of our home is going to be their home plan, then they need to provide the adequate resources from the state level to ensure that, that they can be provided for, because right now I think that's what our public safety folks and our nonprofit folks are struggling with the most.
Anyone else?
I do think that it's important, though, that to determine, you know, when an inmate is released, you know, how to release them back into society, you know, to prevent recidivism, no matter where they land. So, I mean, that's much bigger than me and being on the city council, but I do think that, you know, wherever, you know, they're released, that the reentry is very important, and how to reacclimate them to prevent them from returning to prison.
All right, thank you. Next question is around business friendliness and parking. There's been a lot of discussion about parking downtown and the increased rates. And so this question and statement is, if there's a business in the county, there's no parking fees for parking in the county if you have a business out there. Isn't it counterproductive to increase business parking prices downtown? So whoever would like to address that. I know it's been a topic of discussion and there's information, so open up to the mayor or council.
I mean, I don't know anybody that goes to a larger urban area that doesn't have that type of practice in place. You know, frankly, I've said numerous times, we're behind the 8 ball. You know, my biggest concern is the UIP is going to open and all of the facets that go along with it, and we're arguing about, you know, the marginal, I think 3% marginal rate increase in parking. Right now, what we should really be talking about is, I think we're about 3 years behind on the third deck. I think that all of those different components of that project and the associated building that's occurring opens up. And I'd like to put it in this perspective. You know, 2 years ago, and I say this all the time, 2 years ago, a lot of these sort of major building redevelopments were ideas on paper. We just approved, I think, our 13th major Invest Hagerstown contribution for redevelopment. So we have 13 large buildings that have been sitting empty, virtually empty, for a decade, 2 decades, that are going to be sort of all coming online right at the time the UIP is coming online. And I think we're going to be in a severe parking shortage immediately. And it's great to say out in the county You know, parking's free, but out in the county, surface parking is about $3,000 on average per space per lot. That's what it costs the Valley Mall basically to build a parking space. In downtown Hagerstown, we don't have that type of green area, and so we have to go up. And if you go up, it goes from $3,000 to an average of $20,000 a space. And so you've got this cost that's 6.5 times the amount that it costs you to build a surface space. We have to come up with a way to be able to pay for that type of cost increase.
I think I'll echo that we don't have the green space to, or don't have the opportunity to bulldoze buildings and make parking spaces and create free parking. One of the things I think we need to ask ourselves, though, is, and this is in no way any kind of detraction from the current parking management. You know, as we go forward with development, is it the city's responsibility, or is it only the city that is smart enough to build a paid parking deck? What about private developers building parking decks or building parking lots in the city? And you know, yes, it will be paid parking, but why are we the only ones in the city that are smart enough to do this? I don't believe that. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for developers to want to answer this challenge and build a paid parking facility. When I go to downtown DC or any other city, I really don't park in city-owned garages. I go to central parking. I go to all the other for-profit parking garage companies. And I think that's something, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for a developer in town to answer that challenge. And I think we should be doing more to encourage that than looking at how are we going to garner enough tax money to build the next deck.
Mr. Bowman, that was to you.
And I think there's actually two aspects to this issue. One aspect is what the public is paying for parking when they come downtown to park. The other aspect is what are businesses that are coming into Hagerstown paying for their employees. I, for one, believe that parking as it relates to businesses has a degree of economic development bred into it, and therefore have a belief that that type of parking needs some type of subsidy in the long run. As it relates to you're coming downtown and wanting to park and put money in the meter, the answer to that is 25 cents, 50 cents an hour doesn't make it. The rates need to be increased. Having said that, we can't increase the rates, in my opinion, until we come up with the ability to come up with modern age parking. As my sister was meeting us in Hagerstown Friday, she bemoaned the fact that we don't have the parking app. That you know, in today's world, for instance, if we increased our parking rate on the meters, I mean, how many people have enough quarters? Seriously, I mean, 20 years ago, people carried quarters because that's what you did. Today, you carry credit cards. So we need, I think the biggest beef about on-street parking and parking meters is just that. I think that when we get to the next step, the evolution of being able to use credit cards and parking apps, I don't think we'll have the complaints about the cost of parking as much as we do today. And I think it's an interesting discussion to have with businesses downtown, whether they should be getting a discounted rate in order to come down.
See parking, pay parking. Right. I think there's an app for that. Any other questions? I have a question to ask the council members and the mayor, if there are no other questions. So I asked this at State of the County. Each of you just take a minute or so and talk about at the end of this term, whether you run or not, again, it doesn't matter, but at the end of this term, what would you like your legacy to be? What would you like to be most proud of accomplishing, either individually or as part of the team?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, it's, and I can go, this is my 14th state of the city, by the way, and I can go back to 1999, and talk about the University of Maryland in downtown and the vision that we've seen come to fruition over the years and continue to grow as a huge accomplishment for that administration. But for me, it's not about big things like that. It's about little things. You know, when Lou told a story about a resident in Fountainhead who contacted the city, and you know, I reached out to Mike Spiker right away, and I said, listen, I know you got friends in PE. Give somebody a holler and find out what's going on, will you please, so we can get back to this guy. That's what it's about for me. It's not about the big things, it's the small things. You know, it's helping to build a facility like the Dolman Black Heritage Museum. It's the small things. It's not the big things. And I hopefully, when I'm done, whenever I'm done, people will look back and say, you know, he did okay. He tried as hard as he could, and he answered the questions, and he helped the citizens. And that's all I want to do. So.
I'm going to answer this in 3 parts. You know, the first is, you know, we had this sort of question when we met with staff at sort of a goal-setting session some months back, and what I explained to them at that time is, you know, I carry a notebook with me, you know, to the city meetings and things like that, and it has the tabs in it. Everybody probably has this type of notebook. And so for me, you know, the items that we have, and there's probably a dozen in there right now, they're the bigger items that this group needs to make decisions on. And so for me, it's a very succinct process of being able to accomplish one of those items and then be able to put that away in a file and say that item's accomplished. You know, what's the next item that goes into that folder? And that's constantly changing. And so I just view this job as being able to do it in that manner where you take, you know, these myriad of things that you have going on and sort of ticking them off, if you will, just like up on a whiteboard and saying, okay, that item's done, that item's done. The second is obviously, you know, each of us have sort of our dream, projects, pet projects, whatever you want to call them. And I don't care whether it ends up happening in the city or not, but mine is, it's no big secret. I think that this county is long overdue in establishing an indoor turf facility. I watch, you know, thousands of our youth leave this community week in and week out. You probably drive to Spooky Nook and Gaithersburg and Frederick and all over the place, you know, eating in those restaurants and staying in those hotels and you know, with your kids or grandkids, you know, every week of the year. And that's something that I think would be a great economic boon to this community. I think it's long overdue. And so that's sort of, for me, is that pet project. But if you ask me about sort of the big ticket item I'll bring it down to sort of reality here, and not accomplishing that, it's got to be, and I said this as a county commissioner 10 years ago, the 800-pound gorilla in our room is fire service. It has been. You know, we need to step in to the modern era of fire service in this county and the city as a whole. And so I think for me, that's sort of the big one that I look at and say, that's the big sort of next governmental obligation that needs to address and create the appropriate level of efficiencies in order to have that service function the way I think that in our heads as citizens we believe it does, but in reality it currently simply does not.
Thank you.
2 things. One that I think is achievable, we're well on track, that I think by the end of my term we will be able to look back and say we've made good progress on. The other is a very long-term thing that I hope at the end of my term we can look back and say we've made a start. We're getting some traction and we're going in that direction. The first item is within the first week after my appointment to the council, I was sought out by a number of people to kind of give me their impression on what they were dealing with in trying to do development downtown. And we organized a series of meetings with the developers and with staff to try to address some of these things. There was an air of we don't want to say anything because we're afraid of retaliation, and we guaranteed no retaliation. We had a series of meetings. Everybody was very forthcoming, put all their cards out on the table. Staff listened. I think we have made very good progress in correcting those situations, and I was very encouraged in the video to see some of our major players in town here that have had some good responses, and I think that's changing, and I think we're well on the way. We've got a new customer-focused attitude, and I think we need to not let down. We need to keep up with that good progress, and I think that's something that we can all be very proud of at the end of our terms. The other item is something that's extremely long-term, and we need to start talking about it and thinking about it. And you know, there's a lot of minds in this room that are much brighter than mine that could help us figure this situation out, or figure out which direction we want to go. Hagerstown is extremely generous in terms of helping the poor and helping the homeless, and in trying to deal with those that have housing issues, that have addiction issues, and everything else that goes along with poverty. One of the things that we've done, and I think you know, it's a decade-long process. We've centralized all of the facilities that deal with those issues in the same 10-block area that we are trying to dump lots of state money, lots of county money, lots of city money in, to attract feet on the ground downtown and to achieve the economic development we all want. There's an issue, an unspoken issue and an unpopular issue, that we already have a lot of feet on the street that are probably incompatible with what we're trying to do from an economic development standpoint. So we need help from the state, we need help from the county. We need to decide, how are we going to juxtapose these two populations, or is there a better area to move those social services to, rather than the same area where we're building the economic development? Again, can be looked at as a very popular or a very unpopular stance, but we need to talk about it, and we need to figure out what we're doing as a city, because we're not going anywhere if we don't.
Thank you. Councilman Keller?
So I agree with Austin if we're talking about what I hope this administration's legacy is, and I hope it is that we help turn the tide on making Hagerstown more business friendly. If I'm speaking about my personal legacy, which I believe was part of your question, I think it's no secret that I ran on a platform. I ran on the platform of the heroin and opioid epidemic. I hope that at the end of my term, Washington Goes Purple is successful. I really hope that that is my legacy, because we can sit here all day and talk about the need for treatment. We can talk about, you know, this is very personal to me, but it should be personal to everyone in this room. If you're lucky enough to not know someone who has died because of the heroin epidemic or is struggling because of it, it is affecting your workforce. It is affecting our ability to grow. It is affecting our quality of life in our neighborhoods. So it is personal to everyone in this room. But with Washington Goes Purple, it's not about the addict, it's about preventing addiction. And there's really nothing more important than our children. I think nationwide, we've failed them with talking about the dangers of prescription painkillers. You know, we put so much time into talking to our kids about cigarettes and alcohol and texting and driving. And when 80% of heroin users begin with prescription pills, it's pretty obvious we need to be talking to our kids about that. So I hope to continue to make that grow. I made my best friend a promise that I would stay loud for her before she died, and I'm just trying to do just that. So I hope at the end of my term that that is absolutely my legacy.
Thank you.
So many of you in this room have been subject to my ideas probably on a daily basis. Sorry, not sorry. So I've already started a youth advisory council, which was something that I wanted to do, and I'm trying to address the homeless issue with the Bridge to Change program. So I'm good. I can't wait for all of you to think of all the ideas, come back to me and say, oh, let's do this now. So, I think that as a council, I would love to see the next block of Potomac Street start to develop. Aaron? So I'd like to see it move block by block. So I think that we've got a lot of momentum, at the Maryland Theater, and moving up forward, moving close to City Hall. I think that would be a huge accomplishment to get to start. So,
Thank you.
I know everybody's got to go. I'll be brief, but Margaret Mead is quoted as saying, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." I hope at the end of this term that I can look back and see that the city is a better place than it was when we started. Thank you.
We do have time for the last question. Aaron, hold that applause. Thank you for being ready. Here's the question. What action is being taken to preserve and protect the environmental integrity and natural resource in Hagerstown? How urgent is environmental preservation when it comes to the distinct, unique character of the region?
Well, we don't allow cows in the city. Plus.
No cows in the city. Check.
We have, with our Parks and Recs department and those individuals who help to maintain our waterways, be it marsh run or those kind of natural resources, I think we do a pretty good job at that. With the requirements coming down from MDE and those kind of agencies that we have to try to figure out how to treat runoff and those kind of things, I think we're headed in the right direction to protect our natural resources and find those solutions. It's all about the money for that one. And hopefully when we really start delving into it and we're going to get some help when it comes from the state or the federal government, because I can guarantee you the city of Hagerstown nor Washington County can afford to do it on their own. So.
Anyone else?
I think I recognize that we're a city like most that had decades and decades of industrial development in areas that are now largely residential and commercial. And so for us, I think the biggest issue environmentally is not simply green space preservation, but more so brownfield redevelopment. I do. I look at the fact when we took down MELP, that was a huge, decades-long sort of stare at the big empty building. What are we going to do with that? Because everybody knows what it was, how it functioned, and the fact that it's sitting next to a creek. And so every time I look at that, whether it's the Central Chemical site, which I grew up in the neighborhood of, or MELP, or the
CSX property.
Yeah, the CSX properties, the light, whatever it's called, the light building near the stadium. All of those types of sort of brownfield areas. I think we need to take them one at a time with the funding that we have available, and we need to clean them up to the degree that we practically, financially can. I think that's sort of where the best bang for the buck for the money that we have available to spend will be.
The mayor mentioned the stormwater issue that's coming up, and we are going to need some state support for that. The county and the city are. But I think the main thing we can do from an environmental standpoint is make sure with our development efforts downtown and within the city that we keep an eye toward green space, walking, pedestrian environment, good plantings, a very comfortable, nice, attractive area to go to with the proper plantings and the zoning to support that. And I think that will go a long way towards the quality of life in the city.
We'll end with that. Thank you, Councilmember Heffernan. I would like to thank the council and the mayor. I do know it's, one of the privileges of my job is to know our elected officials. But I will say all of them are open to your comments and conversations and feedback. I've never not had an email return or phone call return. And I think as a citizen, I think you could all expect the same treatment. So if you have questions, concerns, positive feedback, that's always nice every once in a while. Some good things are going on in the city, so thank you for your work there. We want to thank Kristen Wright and Wright Gardner for their support, and let's thank the mayor and their council for this morning. Thank you.